Good evening and welcome to today's episode of Rise Up, Ignite Your Life. This is Krista Fee, your host, and today we're going to step outside of our conversation of post-traumatic and occupational traumatic stress and shift a little bit of our focus towards the bonds of family. What happens when those bonds of family are conflicting, and what happens when the organization that we depend on, that we expect to have our back that's become such a part of us, what happens when that organizational structure or system fails us? So today I'm bringing to you U.S. Navy veteran and retired U.S. Marshal Robert Ledogar. Hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here today because this
Thank
conversation goes a little different direction than usual.
Right. Thanks for having me. It's great to be part of this.
I like to push buttons and to challenge systems and structures. So know that this podcast is completely raw, uncensored. You can say anything that you want to say. Anything goes. But let's begin with your childhood a little bit. Let's talk about what was that like for you, and did you always know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah, very much so. I'm from New York, the five boroughs. I grew up in Queens in a a town called in the Rockaways. So it was like a little island off of main part of New York, and I lived on the water my whole life. I got to endure, all four seasons. I went to Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school. Back in the day when you can walk to school, and I'm still friends with the same guys and girls I went to kindergarten with today. I played sports, more big hockey participant. I did fairly good in school. I didn't have to go to summer school or get left back. And then, like when I was in high school, I knew the route I was going to take. I wanted to go in the Navy, and I set my sights on I wanted to become like a federal agent. And more or less I was, daydreaming about going to like DEA because, as a teenager, you grow up watching, we watched Miami Vice, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, cruising around in a Ferrari and a Scarab boat and, going after the bad guys. So I thought that's what it was all about. So I graduated high school and went right into the Navy. And I did almost 7 years. I was a master at arms, second class petty officer before I got out. I served in Pensacola, Florida. Then I went to Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait during Desert Storm. Then from there, I went to a small little island in Italy, La Maddalena, which was awesome. We had a real good time there. Then I ended up, my last tour was in Little Creek, Virginia, as an instructor for shipboard and security engagement tactics. And then, while I was there, we were getting all these notices, well, law enforcement recruiting, like regular police departments and even federal agencies. So I'm 23, 24 years old and I'm applying, I'm like, I'm not going to stay in the military. And then I applied and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go with whoever calls me first, just to get in. And so I did. And I applied for the U.S. Marshals and this special program they had called Operation Shining Star that they were going for military people, law enforcement, special programs, guys and girls that were in there. And I knew I would get picked. My background spoke for itself. And I took I did some interviews. I took the test, and like within 2 or 3 weeks, they called. They're like, "Hey, we want to put you in the academy and that." I'm like, "All right." So, and it happens quick, man. It was real quick, and I I got out of the Navy on a Saturday in June, and on Sunday in June, I was in the Marshals Academy down in Georgia. I just rolled right over. It was great, but I went through the academy, and I was 24 years old, and I'm like, oh, I want to go back home to New York, thinking I'm missing something, and I did. I got stationed in the Eastern District of New York, which is in Brooklyn downtown, and I wound up doing my whole career there in Brooklyn, and the territory that we cover was like Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Nassau, and Suffolk County out in Long Island. And I went in. I was a deputy U.S. Marshal, and I did it's almost like being a police officer. You do like the uniform duties. I would work in court or cell block or prisoner transportation, or I would get rotations into the warrant squad, which was like the glorious part of the job. That's what everybody wants to do. And then there was other parts of doing like seized assets, where you would seize properties and maintain them, and then protection details on judges or U.S. attorneys. And but I was, I guess where I grew up, I was lucky that I had good common sense and street smarts, so I could figure it out. And some of my bosses there, my old chiefs, they saw what I could do, and my background being in the Navy as a MP and an investigator, I slid right into the warrant squad and did that, majority of my career, and it was awesome. It was such an adrenaline rush, doing that stuff. And it's the greatest part of law enforcement. You're going after the bad guys. And I did that, and next thing you know, I put in to be promoted, and I was promoted to supervisor. And I had to work like in different sections in the beginning, but there is no way. My chief was like, we can't do this. We can't put him in a suit and have him talking to the judges every day. It's not, it's talking to the judges like we're back on the street somewhere. And my chief, which is a great guy, and he knew right away. He's like, we got to put him back in the warrant squad. And here I am now. I go back in the warrant squad and supervise the guys that I'm working with, that I used to work with side by side. But now I'm their boss, But it's great because I was one of those guys, and I still am today, is like, I care more about the guys and the girls than leadership. Like you got to fight for the guys, the team out there. And that's what I did my whole career. And my chief knew it, and we would butt heads. And I'm like, it's all about, the guys and the girls on the street, not, headquarters. I don't care what the people in headquarters are doing. They're 9 to 5. These guys are, 24/7 that work warrants in the street and doing the job. So that put me over the top with everybody. They knew how I stood and what I was going to get taken care of. And like I said, I worked in Brooklyn. It was great. You have the best cases in the world going on. I mean, that's it. I mean, everything's happening there. And we had some great jobs, and made a lot of history. Like, I'm proud to say that I was one of the marshals involved with El Chapo, and it was in my district. My guys were part of that investigation. It was just great. And we made some notable arrests for the district and for the whole marshal service in general. Like, we put them on the map. So,
and as exciting and wonderful as the job is, you faced some extraordinary risks and you paid the price for that. You were involved in shooting incidents?
Four shooting incidents, car accidents, fighting with fugitives, and yeah. And you know what? I was in Desert Storm, so we were involved in shootings, and over there you didn't think nothing of it, and then now you're back in New York, in the city, in the States. And, I was involved in a shooting incident in Long Island, and then the 3 in Queens. So some scary shit, everybody, it's funny. You watch these TV shows and movies, it's all bullshit, and Law and Order or Blue Bloods or, anything like that. Listen, we were to go out in the mornings to go after people. You're wearing a bulletproof vest, carrying, it's scary, man. It's nothing like in the military. The military, you're prepared, you're trained, you're ready for it. Out in the streets in the city, it's a different world. You're going in there, like somebody shoots at you in the city, you're like, your heart's going right through your chest. You're scared to death. And I don't care whatever anybody says, you're scared to death every day. It happens.
I like the idea that you're not afraid to talk about the fear. And it seems to me, and I haven't done street work, it seems to me that would be an undercurrent all the time, because in the military, you know who the enemy is and you know kind of where they're at. So you've got a little bit more idea of, trouble's coming and it's going to come most likely from over there, but when you're out in the street, you don't necessarily know who the enemy is, and you don't necessarily know when it's coming or from where it's coming from. We have officers sitting in their cars, not even on duty, that are being shot. So that has to play a little bit of a role in how you approach your day. Did you notice that undercurrent was there? Did it affect you at all?
It does, but thank goodness, you're like, being a veteran, you have the upper step on everybody, the upper hand. There's something bad around the corner. You don't know what it is. In the military, it was great. I had a lot more people with me than, the 8 to 12 people we went on the street out with, and everybody's displaced, and you're going up into big high-rise buildings in the ghetto. It's like, you don't know where you're going to get, where it's coming from. You lose communications. Your cell phone goes down, a handheld radio goes down. You're on the 18th floor of a building. There's no comms, and there's 5 of you up there. There's 1 or 2 people on the roof. There's 2 people on the ground. There's 1 person just watching our cars, because people are going to come by and ransack our vehicles. So you have to put somebody just with your cars. And then you're going into an apartment that they're all the same, but they're cluttered with so much garbage. You don't know who's in. You're hoping the bad guy that you're looking for is in there. And then there's, 5 or 6, 7 other people. And now there's only 5 of you against all these people. You got to put them on the ground. You lose light. You walk around with a flashlight, and your batteries go dead. Your gun's in your hand. You're just trying to get by, to make it happen, and hope people cooperate. And it's never goes that they don't. Nobody does. It's not like you're knocking on the door saying, "Hello, good morning. Is Mike there?" It's you get greeted a different way.
So I hear you saying that you felt like your military service was invaluable in your law enforcement service.
Yeah, I believe that 100%, especially going in the military young and being trained. And, it's discipline. There's a structure, there's a format, there's a focus, and you're being taught to fight, to live, to fight, to survive, at any means. So you keep that in the back of your head. You always maintain it, and you got to go through life, I think, like that, and, stay prepared and stay ready. And especially if you're going to go from the military and then go into law enforcement, or, any type of first responder, like even with the fire department or the medical field with EMTs, you got to be ready to go. Something's going to happen, and you got to be mentally prepared for that. And it's a shame. A whole different talking point is how I think here in the States, like, I don't think we give enough credit to the military guys and girls coming out. Like here everybody worried about the Second Amendment with your right to carry a gun. I mean, holy shit, the first person that should be given a gun is ex-military, a veteran. Like they were trained, they know what they're doing, and that should be, even when you put police tests out there, the first person that you should pick is a veteran who stood a post, who walked a beat, knows what it's like, instead of some college kid, because he or she did, was the valedictorian. Big deal. Military people that have the better background than anybody.
Oftentimes we talk about the blue line and the blue line family or the blue line brotherhood. Military kind of has the same idea. It's family. You become so tied together with your people. So for you had two separate worlds that you were committed to and dedicated to, and you experienced a collision of those worlds. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. I brought that from my background. Even before I went in the military, I believed in, friendship and, family and, like gatherings and getting togethers. And, when I was in the military, it seemed like my apartment was like Grand Central. Everybody met at my place, before we went out or anything. And I carried that over when I became a marshal. And for years, my wife and I, every year, would have a huge barbecue pool party at our house and invite everybody from the office over. I mean, I would have over 200 people at my house, and just to build the camaraderie of what it's supposed to be like, like it's, you work together, you're supposed to, you get your coworkers, your friends, your partners, your teammates. And I was a fool because some people took advantage of that, and it's a shame. There's a young lady who works for me while I was a supervisor, and we were part of this huge task force. And our task force was the leaders in the nation. And I mean, they made a TV show about us, Manhunters, on A&E, and so this young lady who's an Army veteran, deputy U.S. Marshal, she earned her spot, and she wanted to be in the Warren Squad and do it. And I selected her. I put her in there, but she was a female, and she was a lesbian. And some of the guys in the task force didn't like her, didn't want to take orders from her, didn't want to acknowledge her. And she wasn't going to put up with it. She wasn't going to tolerate it. And she kept working through it and doing her job. But every day they made it worse for her. And they, it started out with the bullying and harassing and, busting chops and ball busting. But it was just a little bit more, and it got to the levels of sexual harassment to actually assault against her. And, she brought it to my attention. She told me, she confronted it to me. For her own safety, I took her out of there, and then I confronted the supervisor of those guys. And then I confronted all those guys, and it didn't seem to go right that those guys, I reported to our chiefs knew about it, and it went up to the upper leadership of the agency and headquarters. And they didn't do it the right, like how do you, it's sexual harassment, one-on-one. You separate people. They wanted to keep them all together. You investigate these people. You put people on admin suspension. They didn't do anything. And then because then some other people, my direct leadership, complained about that. And there was arguments going on, and it was going to lead up to actual physical confrontations with people, to include myself, against one of the guys who tried to fight me. And he was like, "You're going to go against the blue wall, the blue line. You're going to cross the blue line. You're going to defend her over us." And it's right or wrong. You can't hit her. You can't mess with her property. You can't touch her. You can't make her kiss you. You can't do these things. Like, this is a professional organization. And my own agency, they had people who know those guys do the investigation. And they were like, "Oh, there's no wrongdoing here. It's going to be like office culture. Just some petty." We're like, "No, there's actual crimes that are being taken place." So during that, these guys, and they've been to my house, and we tried to do, make it teamwork. Yeah, they were getting removed from the task force because of what was going on. And then all of a sudden they came out and they were like, "Oh, you, Bobby Ledogar, even though we've known you for 5 or 10 years, you're a racist. You say the N-word hundreds and thousands times a day. And we never wanted to say anything because, we were friends, but we're going to say it today, but not 10 years ago. And not only are you a racist, you steal evidence, you steal money, you sell drugs, you take drugs, and there's so much more. You and your wife have domestics. Your wife is dating a felon before she got with you. You own a business with a felon. All these things that would take up time to investigate. And people knew they were lies. It's just insane. And my own agency, because to save the good name of the task force, because the task force was created after September 11th, funded through Congress off of the Patriot Act. So if that went back to Congress, that there was sexual harassment and against a female lesbian, they would all look really bad, and the funding would be questioned. And my own fellow people, I guess, in my own agency went against me in defending a coworker, another marshal, and had internal affairs investigate me of the lies that were made against me as if they were true. So that started back in 2015. I had to go hire a lawyer because we're federal agents. We don't have unions, and big money. And they proposed to fire me, and it came all out in 2020, 5 years later. And I was working, doing everything under investigations. And 2 months before I could retire in 2020, during the pandemic, when the whole world is shut down, the Marshal Service found it necessary to fire me 2 months before I could retire, when I had my paperwork in, when I was on leave, using leave time instead of playing the game that we know so many people did during the pandemic to score. And I was terminated, and I was fired, and I lost everything. I lost my pension, my medical benefits, everything. And then, people talk about it today, well, your good name was destroyed. I have a great name. I have support of hundreds and thousands of people, and they all stood there for me. It was just the leadership of the agency that had their own personal agenda to protect the task force over their own people. So I defended this young lady, and she was protected because the complaint came out and people talked about it, like, leave her alone, don't mess with her. And during the stuff that was going on with me, she filed an EEO, and it got really intense against her, and there was a lot of pressure. And she just settled with the Marshal Service on her EEO. They gave her a lot of money. They promoted her and restored any time that she had lost. And of course, she couldn't talk about it. But as I defended her, we sit here today, she's defending me for defending her. So, it's a shame what happened. She retired. Now she's able to come out and talk about everything and tell everybody like what I did for her, which is great. So I get fired, and it's the pandemic. There, you can't get a job. I got no medical benefits. And being a veteran, I always went to the VA and had my physical. So I had to go back to the VA and ask for some help. And you don't sleep, you don't eat, you get paranoid and scared, and there's fear, you're ashamed and embarrassed. And nobody let me be like that, but it's in your head. The demons get to you, they freak you out. And I'd go out for walks for miles. I'm in Florida now. I'd be walking at 2:00 in the afternoon, sweating my ass off, with like thinking I was going to go for a walk and listen to music and get my head straight. Nope, I would 7 miles, and I would just be thinking about what internal affairs did to me and what my own agency wrote about me of, being a bad person. And it sucks. And, I'm very grateful to the VA. For me, the VA was great. I spoke to a therapist, and then they put me in touch with a psychologist, and it was great. And still today I talk to them, just to get you through it. So I was able to move forward, and we filed an appeal before the Merit System Protection Board, which is a complete shit show. It's like a kangaroo court. It's an embarrassment. But you have to go that route, being a government employee. Like, there's steps to take. And the administrative law judge, who's just appointed and is probably not even a lawyer, she found that there was no policy against what they were saying I did, but still ruled in favor of the agency, the marshals, that they do have the authority and the right to fire me, even though I had so much support and positive background. And so we now filed an appeal against that decision, which has been approved to go before the Merit System Protection Board, 3-panel quorum, which those 3 people are appointed by the president. So it's supposed to be neutral, but the system sucks. The whole process sucks when I have the law and case law and the truth and the facts on my side. Like, my lawyers are great. They're so smart. And I think they're too smart. And they should have dummied it down somehow against the government lawyers. Because the government lawyers lied. And they cherry pick, your statements, and they pull sentences from other interviews, and it just confuses the judge who was in over her head. It was total. It's like, my case is so complex, but my wife is awesome. She's a superstar. She was right there for me to today. My parents, my friends, family, coworkers, everybody. And we sit here today, and my case is still pending the appeal, but I landed on my feet. You got to trust some people, even people you don't know. Like, they come out, like, people do help people. And I made some great connections, and there's a couple of awesome people who helped me and coached me and guide me on what to do. And it's an honorable thing. What I did is I got my retirement. I retired. I used the government against the government. I didn't break any rules or any laws or any policy violations. I used their own policies and programs to benefit me, and it worked. And I'm fully retired now after 32 years in the government, full pension. And what's so rewarding about it is that a few months ago, my chief was confronted by one of the lawyers from the marshals, and she asked him, how did I do it? And he was able just to smile at her and be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Give them a call if you want to know how to do your job. And I still know they're mad that, I won, but I really, even when you win, you lose, you messed up my head. You took a piece of me that's never going to be the same again. And it sucks, but you can't let it kill you. And trust me, people who go through what I went through, and even worse, they want you, and they are your own people. They want you to die. They want you to kill yourself. They want you to get more jammed up than the situation you're in. And that sucks. That really sucks that other Americans want to try to screw over another American for nothing. Like, I mean, listen, if I was a criminal, no problem. Put me in jail. But I'm not. But don't treat me like a criminal over administrative policy bullshit. And it just blows your mind. So today, I'm retired. I have full medical benefits. My wife is very happy. My parents are happy, proud of me. My friends are so happy for us. And while I was going through all this stuff, without making any phone calls or asking people for help or favors, I was able to go out and get a job. Just because I had to provide for my family and protect them. And I am now a security consultant for a private organization, which is awesome. And I travel throughout, mainly the South, but I do go out to the West or up North. And, I do security training and physical security assessments and discussions about security awareness. And people know who I am because they search you, they Google you before you come there. And they're taken back by me, and they want to hear, my experience and how professional you are and what you know and what you've been through. And it's great. It's just absolutely great. And I'm able today to get people reach out to me now for help as much as I needed help from other people. Lawyers tell their clients to talk to me about the process of what's going to go on and what's going to happen. And you try to you guide them. And you know what? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a scholar. And the truth hurts. So if you call me for advice or guidance, I'm going to tell you exactly what the hell is going to happen and what you're going to go through. And the only way you can fail is if you in your head think you're going to fail. That's it. You got to suck it up. You got to get punched in the mouth and move on. You know, it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And that's it. You know, and now you punch back and you win. And that's thankfully what I was able to do, you know, and every day is great.
Now that you've gotten to the point where the outcome is more known, do you regret at all standing up for her?
No, not at all. I have zero regrets. The way I grew up, I have a younger sister, and you know, as going into grammar school, my dad told me, if anybody messes with your sister, beat the shit out of them. That's it. That's it. No one's going to, you know, and I don't play this game, you know, with the being like today's environment, being woke or the different cultures or any of that. Bullshit. If you mess with my wife, I'm going to fight back. And that's what happened here. These guys, you mess with me, you mess with my wife, and that's it. And these guys, some of these guys, and I know who they are, and it's well known, and it's okay. I don't need to put people's names out there or write a list. It's in my head. They came to my house. They put screws in the tires of our cars, in my wife's car. They tried to scare my wife, my mother-in-law who lived with us. They would sit outside our house in unmarked cars to intimidate us. So I hope they look over their shoulders every day because I'm still here. So if you wanted to come after me, and they did, they should have killed me, and they didn't. So mean people suck, and they'll get theirs because I'm still here.
Yeah. So there is a whole other conversation that we could go into, and
Sure.
It's a conversation that takes way more than what you and I can get into. But women in law enforcement, it's still a boys' club, and the idea that for your employee that she was not part of the blue line, that it was you're standing against this blue line when really she's part of this. She's part of that family. She's one of you, but they didn't see her that way. How big of a problem do you think that still is, even despite the efforts that have been made to bring women into an equal position in law enforcement?
I agree with what you're saying. I'm not the expert in that because I was very fortunate for the young ladies that worked with me and for me are indestructible. They're unbelievable. Like the girl, Dawn, I can say her name. She's athletic. She plays softball, soccer. She was a soccer coach. She qualified on her weapon. She meet the requirements for her fitness test. She was in decent shape and physically fit. She can control her. She could handle herself, even in a fight, and it's going to happen. As well as two with 4 other women who I worked with and who later on worked for me. They would kick the shit out of 90% of the guys that I worked with. I mean, these girls, they were in the gym. One girl was a kickboxer. You got to be kidding me. The other was a physical fitness trainer. And that's it. And again, like I was in Brooklyn. So these girls, they got they're shark skin. You're not going to penetrate that. They can fight you off. But I do know that in some parts of it, it is. It's the good old boy program, and it exists today because it went against me, and it went against Dawn, who I protected. It went against us, and And sometimes it's not just the guys that are part of the good old boy program. There's some dirty girls that are part of that program. And what's really disgusting for me and what breaks my heart is that the deciding official against me was a female. And I don't care whose feelings I hurt, she's a slob of a person, because she was one of my class advisors when I went through basic training, and she personally knew me, and she followed my career because she was one of my personal advisors. Like, I liked her and she liked me, and she knew I was doing really good at the job. And then for her, because she became a headquarters person and was more worried about towing the company line than bringing the truth out, I think, and she retired, and all these bad actors that were part of this all got to retire or transfer out. And then we see it till today, how the corruption in law enforcement is coming out so big, where you see these dirty managers and leaders in headquarters positions getting caught up with sexual harassment and fraud, and they have no one to protect themselves now, but they can quick run for the door to retire. And it's a shame that it's like that. And they go after the smaller person, the smaller titled person, because it ties up the system. Because the investigators will focus on you, and they're intimidated to go after the people with titles. And it's a joke. It's a complete joke. And hopefully somehow it can get fixed, but you can't investigate yourself. It's not going to pay out right.
And that's the big challenge here, is all of these systems are built where you're basically doing just that. Supervisors are investigating other supervisors that are,
dirty. They're dirty. Yeah.
So what would you say you're doing now to help other people not go through the same things that you went through, or to bring more awareness to the struggles that you went through?
I think I do more awareness and educate some people on what you're going to go through. Like, this is what's going to happen. And everybody's different. Everybody has different feelings and thoughts. And, I find that, I'm having a lot more talks with, individuals about things, and they're asking for help and guidance on how it's going to play out. And it seems to be that they listen to you, because I think they get sick and tired of spending money to listen to their lawyer. So they'll ask, and I'm like, but you have to accept the truth of what's going to happen. I don't want to be an expert in this shit, but I become an expert. I wish it never happened to me. But it did. And it's okay to fall down in a hole for a month or two, but holy shit, you better start climbing out of it, or else the dirt's gonna fall back on top of you and you're gonna fade away. And you can't let it happen. You gotta smarten up. You gotta read, what you're involved in, and accept it. And you can't feel sorry for yourself. You can't, listen, you can't blame anybody, but you just got to move forward. You can't hate people. You can't break the law or commit a crime or hurt yourself or your family. You gotta suck it up and get stronger. If it takes riding your bike or going for a run or going for a swim or going to the gym or, going dark for a week, do something to get yourself back in the game and fight it, fight off the negativity And you can, you really can. I'm not a religious person. I'm Catholic, but I didn't, I'm not going to be a phony and say I prayed to God or anything for help, because I didn't. I just didn't. My wife did. She's, prayed for us, and other people did, and I love them for it. I mean, I had a friend send me a Bible, and she prays for me all the time, and she texted me, prayers. And every now and then I'll glance through it and I'm like, holy shit, this is about me, and they nail it. But talking about what happens to you to someone that listens to you helps. And that's what people need. I'm not a fan of taking medication or all these crazy vitamins out there, or herbs, or different fruits, like talking to another person about what you're going through, and that person listening to you and then giving you feedback, it really helps. And it helped me, and it still helps me today. And I'm glad I'm able to help other people get through it.
And now you're going through another process of healing, which we have a Right to Heal program in our organization that uses writing as a way to tell your story and as a way to help with that healing process. You have a book coming out.
I do. We're still in it, and it's funny. The person writing the book that I'm going with, and we go back and forth, and she was hoping that the book would have been done this past August. And I just laughed at her when she said that, because I would bombard her with so much information. And she's just like, holy shit, we're going to get like 2 or 3 books out of this. Your story and your background and everything that you went through. And our book is focused on all the letters of support that were written about me, for my case, to defend me. And she's overwhelmed by it. And it's amazing. And you read some of it, what people, you knew you had really good people in your life, then you find out they're really great people. And they had the courage to put what they wanted to say on paper, and they put their name to it. They put their title to it. They signed it, and they stood proud by it. And for what they did for me is I can never thank them enough. And this is the greatest thanks I got, is to write a book, and for Lady Natalie Riley to believe me and want to do this is just great. And we know that this book is going to help so many people and guide so many people down a better path, and it's inspiring, and it's great. I love getting it off my chest. I love writing stuff down now and sharing it with her, because I can't forget it. You just can't forget it. It's just there. And it makes you feel better. Every day is a better day.
I love that. Every day is a better day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and being with us today, and for sharing your story so openly, even though it's not all the positive stuff.
Yeah.
We got to have these hard conversations, and I look forward to seeing what happens with your book when you finally release that, or multiple books.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Krista, thank you very much. Thank you for letting me talk and say all this stuff. And any questions, it's awesome. And hopefully, it opens up some eyes, and people listen. But I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today on this episode of Rise Up, Ignite Your Life. Again, as always, if you would like to support our podcast and help us keep doing this work we're doing, you can click the button below that says support this podcast, or you can make a donation at battle2be.org, BATTLE, the number 2, BE.org. All of the profits from this podcast are given to the Battle to Be 501c3 nonprofit organization, and they are used to provide post-traumatic and occupational stress resources for families in need, and to fund the Ferryman Project, which is our honor, respect, and remember mission, wherein we take one-of-a-kind plaques to families of fallen heroes and hold space for those who feel like they have been left out or closed out of their law enforcement or first responder families that they dedicated their lives to. So again, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are a community funded organization, and we can't do this work without you. So have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on our next episode.